there's something called Yamanaka factors, which is a way of turning on the body's original systems. You know, we all know that we have, as time goes by, you know, you have most people are familiar with their DNA, but of course, DNA or your genome, that is not your destiny. What matters is the system that runs that. And so if the epigenome is what that called, if people aren't familiar with it. And the epigenome gets messed up, meaning as time, radiation, bad food, bad lifestyle, it irritates, and all of a sudden the communication is not so clear. But there are ways of restoring it. So they restored 3 out of 4 of these Yamanaka factors just recently at Harvard University, and they took mice that are blind. Now they have glaucoma, so the nerves are gone. And they reversed the aging, and they can see again. That's the first time in history.
So the nerves actually regrew?
Regrew. There's gene therapies right now of people that are being able to see again for the very first time. I mean, there's something called the Wnt pathway, you may have heard of, WNT pathway. I heard about this for the first time 3.5 years ago when I was at the Vatican. This man walks out, and you know, I'm sitting beside Sanjay Gupta, who's a pretty informed guy, really great guy, and Dr. Oz are both good friends of mine. And he's researching, he's really quiet, there's no hype, and then he starts to describe how they, figured out the code of the Wnt pathway. And the Wnt pathway, after you're born, in the first 7 to 10 days, if you cut off a child's finger and you don't sew it back up, it'll regrow just like a salamander's tail. But then after that time, we don't have fetal tissue anymore. Everything else you call you is coming from this Wnt signaling pathway. It tells the stem cells make this many brain stem cells, heart stem cells, etc. And for 30 years, pharmaceutical companies have been trying to figure out the breakthrough. This particular company has figured out breakthroughs. Now they're in I'm sure you know, phase 1 is safety at the FDA, phase 2 is efficacy, and phase 3 is efficacy at scale, and then you get approved. So they're at the end of phase 2, about to begin phase 3. They hope by the end of this year they'll be done. But in the preliminary information, here's one of their treatments. 1 injection, single injection. And if you have osteoarthritis, over the next 10 to 12 months, you regrow all your tendons brand new from stem cells. And it's from a new epigenome. You know, like when they made Dolly, when they duplicated it,
Cloned
sheep way back when, right? Well, how did this old sheep create a brand new sheep without all those problems? Because the epigenome gets reset. So they figured out how to make that happen through your Wnt pathway, and it has all kinds of impact. There's 8 different cancers that they're working on treatments for. There are things that'll just blow your mind. So I couldn't give you one thing. There's spray-on stem cells, like, most people don't know it, but if a fireman or policeman or someone falls into a fire and you burn your face off, we've all seen people who are scarred for life. The standard treatment is to put cadaver skin on there for you to try to keep you alive and make things go. They now have in 7 hospitals in the United States where they can take your stem cells and spray them on your face. And I have them in the book. The pictures will blow your mind. From grotesque to you can barely tell anything happened in a period of 3 weeks.
What?
I mean, it is mind-boggling. So there are things that can increase your energy. Right now there is a study being done. You probably are familiar with the fact, as I started to say, that your breakdown happens in the epigenome, but also the energy centers in your body start to get weaker over time. And there are now
Good
new
boy, Trumpy.
discoveries of how to stimulate the body so that that epigenome cleans itself off, like gets rid of the static, makes it clean again. In other words, does repair, while simultaneously firing off the furnaces of energy in your body. One of the studies, there have been a lot of animal studies, obviously, and they don't always translate. So you have to be careful about animal studies. They're intriguing, but we don't know for sure until you do with humans. And in the animal studies, an old rat, which I forget how many months it is, but let's call it a 60-year-old rat would be the equivalent for a human. It can run like a quarter of a kilometer on one of those tracks. A young rat can run a full kilometer. The ones that they test here that are older can run 3 to 4 kilometers once they've had this for literally 20 days. But what's really cool is it wasn't supposed to be released, but it's in the book. There's a group from the Special Forces that was done in Boston. They just finished the first study a year long, and they're seeing similar results with human beings. So we'll know more, but they're not going for this as a nutraceutical. This is going for actually a drug, which would be easier as a nutraceutical, but most of those nutraceuticals don't last. They don't hold up. This one, they believe, will. So for energy, for vitality, for your mind, I mean, it's more than you can imagine. It's 700 pages, to give you an idea.
I want to get that book. Yeah. Inform yourself. Don't accept defeat.